Hello.
Hello, how are you? It's Robert.
Hi, Robert. I'm good. How are you today?
I'm good.
Looks like we're just waiting on a couple more people.
Uh, at least Anna, possibly Sarah, and I don't know if Christy confirmed with you. So
Yeah, she won't. She said she wouldn't be able to make it.
okay, tell her she can't come down.
Make it to the call.
She can't make it to Florida.
Oh no, she can make it to Florida. It's just you guys haven't signed off on anything yet.
Okay, well she's not on the call. Tell her she can't come to Florida.
I'll actually chat that to her right now.
You can tell her that.
I'm gonna chat that. Hey, everyone.
Hey,
Hello.
how you doing?
How are you?
We're being recorded. Mind what you say.
Oh, trust me, I will delete this. It's okay. It's just a natural must on everything, apparently. I can't get it to stop.
Are we laughing about Alicia recording this?
Yes.
Hey, Alicia, how are you?
Well, I mean, this call should be relatively quick. I just wanted to powwow that day. I had some questions on how I was arranging the timeframes for the agenda, but I decided to go with keeping the EU in mind and making kind of report builder in the morning session. And then on the next day, let me see here. On the next day, I think I did AP manager in the morning session so they could also be a part of that as well. Since everything else is smaller ones that we have some sort of video on, I just wanted to make kind of the things that are going to be tougher to potentially get through something that they could also attend.
All right, so let's jump into this since Christy's not joining the call and now not coming to Florida. So I went through, and I'm not sure if you've had a chance to compare what Alicia sent and what I forwarded you, what we originally did and what you prepared. But if, in the interest, if you didn't, everything that we had provided is in here except for E, which is the advanced report writer.
Well, for advanced report writer, I just went ahead and put lease summary or crosstab report. I haven't decided which one we would end up running through as part of the advanced training. And it's generally when you start getting into more advanced report writer, it's specific reports. And so one of those two would be the ones that we would end up doing with the advanced report writing.
Okay, so in the training agenda, and I do have questions from Blaine that I am going to need to address. So I probably will have questions here as we go through it, for the most part. But the time it looks like that you put in there with blocks, and in the 8 to 12 session, you've got report builder 1, report builder 2 happening.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, along with lease summary or crosstab. What is lease summary or crosstab?
It's actually building a lease summary report or a crosstab report. They're two different sets of reporting styles that take a little bit more intricate sections of report builder. So it's going to be one of the two that we focus on. Based on, I'm going to look through and see which one would probably be more beneficial to the group as a whole.
Okay. The report builder 1 and report builder 2 and the details on it, while you summarize them here on what you sent, they are in principle the same as the B and C format that we sent you. Basically, for report builder 1, it was 1 hour and 15, and for report builder 2, it was the 2.5 hours.
Yep.
Roughly taking us through the 4 hours. Now, with that, that leads to the first question, and a question that Blaine is asking. He's asking number 1, and for Sarah, who the participants would be for EU. That's number 1. Number 2 is EU participating with us, or are they pushing for something different?
As far as I know, they're planning to attend via video conference.
Okay. So
do you still need a list of participants?
Yeah, Blaine asked, so I have to have it.
Yeah, I kept the participants off just because I wasn't sure, and so I figured I'll get you the agenda, and then you guys can plug in who you want to be a part of what.
Fair enough. That's okay. For Blaine, we did that for him, and in the format that we sent you, you saw the names. But EU, the individuals missing from there were individuals from EU, and then from the reporting department, it would be Andreas and Brian. But I think he asked their participation for different questions. So I'll table Brian and Andreas for now, okay? But Sarah, I'm gonna need the names of the people that you think they're gonna need to attend. But since it's a 4-hour class and a 5-hour differential, Alicia, you're thinking of covering all the report writing in the morning for them on a late night. This would be I guess it's a long, I don't know how.
It'd be a long day for them, but I'm thinking 1 o'clock is like, well, it's around, 12 o'clock. If we take it out to 12 is roughly around, it's a what, 3 or 4 hour difference?
I believe it's a 5-hour differential.
So we'll take, it will be a long day for them because they'll be there till roughly about 6 o'clock that day.
Okay.
Do we have the ability to maybe start earlier here so that we can alleviate maybe, an hour on the back end for them?
So start it at, say, 7 o'clock and get through a little earlier?
That's an early morning to start at 7, I guess.
Or, we can probably cut lunch. If we're going to try to do a working lunch, we can, only have it be a half hour.
I'm in favor of that. But then by then we're done, right? By noon, it looks to be that by the schedule, we're done at the 12 o'clock hour.
Yeah, for a report builder, we would be done at the 12 o'clock hour.
Right. And then they can.
So you only need on from 8 to 12?
Report building 1 and 2 is from 8 to 12, yes.
And that's the only time that EU is going to be on?
What other topics? Well, no, I think, well, let me ask you, what other topics do they need to cover for training?
Workflows.
I don't know that we asked them.
Workflows are very important to the EU team. Contract workflows specifically. They don't care whether or not we do AP workflows.
Okay, so let's see.
That's late in the evening, day 1.
Okay, so, all right, hold on. Let me see how I could refigure this.
Well, I think the thing with workflow, though, so workflow has to be a combined decision. And when I gave my suggestions, I thought we probably need some time, like internally to talk and maybe have Alicia there as like just to bounce ideas off of. And then the second part would be making, sitting down and making the decisions and, not necessarily turning it on because I know we're not there yet, but it kind of was like a 2-part just in case, we needed to check.
Which is why I kept it a little bit further in the afternoon, because I figured that was going to be more of you guys internally discussing, and then me or potentially even Christy chiming in on best practices, how we could make it work. If we have to, based on what the discussion is between you guys, it's going to be a matter of, okay, do we have to come up with a plan to make it work? Because contract workflow, when you really get into the nitty gritty of it, some people like the concept of it, and some people are like, no, we need it to do X, Y, and Z for, these purposes. And so then what we're doing is we're taking that time to say, okay, well, how can we make this work for the specific business need?
Okay, so I think at a minimum, anybody that wants to be a part of that workflows needs to go back, and I know I'm at fault on this personally, but needs to go back and re-watch whatever videos we have on the topic. And then if there were supplemental materials provided, review those so that when we're sitting down, it's not like, this is how workflows work. It's not like everybody's deer in the headlights. I've never heard this before.
So the EU team did that. They reviewed the recorded trainings, and they took a look at the Knowledge Center documentation on workflows. They did that a few weeks ago, and they've been intending to talk to you and Gemma about it since it's a global decision. You, Anna.
They need me to go there for this, right? I feel like
yeah.
I need some stamps in that passport.
So it's going to be up to you how you want to handle that. We can either have the discussion later on in the day, or you can tell the EU team to hang on and we can make it a working lunch, and we'll bump the contract workflow up to lunchtime.
Well, because contract's only an hour and a half, can we not swap it out for the first thing next morning?
We could do that and push AP training.
Or you could swap that with security. We could do security in the afternoon.
Let me see, hold on.
Yeah.
They're supposed to be on for security.
Yeah, security's an hour and a half, and that would fit.
All right, so you're saying swap out security right now for AP manager, correct?
No, I'm saying move AP contract workflow to your AP manager, move AP manager back, and then move security to the previous day.
Gotcha.
At the 4 o'clock.
At that 4 o'clock time slot, okay.
I didn't participate in the agenda items. Is there a reason we want security training during this on-site training?
I feel like we probably need to revisit it, because I think right now, when I ask for new people to be set up, everybody gets global access. So I think pretty quickly we're going to need to,
get that down sooner rather than later before you guys actually even go live.
Yeah.
But my understanding was that our IT help desk personnel would be handling our user access administration.
Okay.
So I think that's just a portion of it. So like the other items are master field management, custom labels. I think we probably need to revisit this and kind of look at those things. And I mean, I guess I could probably look at a video if we have one from before. I guess I just need to look at all the videos again.
Who handles, when you say IT help desk, who's that? Is that a North and South Chicago, Florida thing, or is it just one individual?
It's a whole team. We have one in North America, and we have one in EU. And essentially, like, let's say you need to get a system installed on your computer. You would open up an IT ticket. You'd email our help desk, and they would do it for you. So we have internal resources to handle all of our computer issues and also administer the systems we have. So any other system that requires password login, if you get locked out, you'd open a help desk ticket, and they'd help you.
That's the help. Who has anybody made the decisions on the system classes though? Because from my understanding, I knew your IT team was going to be the one creating the users, but there was discussion on who would be telling them what system classes to create.
That's true. I agree with that. That would be coming from the project team. So Anna, Robert, Les North, our actual people that need to use the system, they need to collaborate and figure out who should have access to what. And then we would document that, give it to IT, and they'll create the user system classes appropriately.
So with that being said, there's two ways that we could do that. We can either not do the security training or take a portion of the security training time and focus on maybe creating a system class or two.
I think that'd be a good idea, just so we can understand how.
Like, yeah, like you guys come up beforehand with, say, you come up with a role and you say you role base it, because there's a couple ways that you can figure out how you want to create the system classes. If you role base it and say you're like, okay, well, for any one person who's going to be deemed as, you know, a lease administrator, this is what we want them to have access to. This is what we don't. What does that look like in the system?
Yeah, that's exactly what we need to figure out.
Are there existing roles in the system today?
No.
No. So it's just a shell.
Yep.
Yeah. Right now, Robert, the people that have been needing to make edits have been given global access. So you have read-only or global, and everything in between we have to determine and customize.
All right. So I think this warrants a discussion with Len and say, Len, who's going to be the champion or champions to really do this, and see whether or not he has any thoughts on it, because generally speaking, I've always seen it, well.
I was gonna say, this is one of those situations that you're definitely gonna need some people who truly understand the system to help make some of these key decisions. And it's also something that you, again, have to build from scratch, because not everybody needs to have global access. We probably would tell you on average for any, you know, one client we have, they have maybe up to 5 global users, but everybody else who's a part of the system has some sort of modified access.
Okay. I think this is a takeaway, Sarah, to maybe bring up in a call, if not tomorrow, Friday. I mean, I think they just need to be prompted, because I'm not sure. I mean, you know, and Sarah, I don't know if Len is aware of the magnitude that needs to get developed here.
So Robert, have they given any feedback to the training list?
The one that has is Blaine. Blaine has several questions, and I'm going to go through them once we're within the 10-minute window. Alicia, if you let me know, hey, I got like 10 minutes left, we can rattle off the questions. Some of them we're addressing now, but I need to make sure I have them covered, because he got these
And I have a little bit more wiggle room today. If we tend to go over the 30 minutes I had allotted, I have some wiggle room, so we're good.
Yeah. So this one I think just needs to be developed, and we just need to know what they're thinking, if they've thought of it at all, and someone would have to sit down and say, there's a report. An admin, and then there's someone in real estate, and real estate just these following screens, and how deep the dive needs to be on each one, and I can hear someone say, well, what did some of your clients have, you know? So
well, we had a similar setup in Cetera, didn't we, Anna?
Yeah, so in Cetera we set up roles, and it was, you know, an abstractor has a certain amount of items that they can modify and see, but a read-only person doesn't have the ability to see, you know, down deeper. Admins can see everything. So yeah, I mean,
yeah,
you have that for them.
What I'm guessing Blaine and Len are going to want to see is what we had in Cetera, what we're proposing we have in AMT, and then they're just going to want to approve it. That's what I'm guessing. But Alicia, to you previously said you could shorten the security training and just focus on the system classes and all that. How much time would you anticipate that taking?
If we're just solely talking about system classes, I mean, it's honestly, we could get it done in an hour. I mean, an hour and a half is being kind of realistic about it because there's always questions. There's always, well, what does that do? Well, what does that look like? Well, what does that look like? So I can shorten it down to however long you need it to be.
But I think before that, whatever you have in Citera needs to come forward, Anna. I think you need to produce what you have so that it can be at the forefront. And number two, whoever is going to be doing this needs to participate in this session. So that's the issue. If it will be help desk, then those people need to participate in this session and have a general understanding of setup and if I can't do it, I call the help desk, or what's the contact information, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So
Robert, they've received, the help desk personnel have already received the regular security training, and it was recorded as well. And it seemed pretty straightforward for them. There were no follow-up questions afterwards.
who in North America attended from IT?
Kevin, Tommy Tran, Trina McNamara, she's not here anymore. So we have new employees that would need to watch the training, but I doubt anybody's going to pay to fly them to Florida for 1 hour training.
No, I'm not. I agree with you.
I was going to say, additionally, I think, like you said, it is pretty straightforward in how to create them. Where you're going to have the biggest kind of issue is taking what you currently have, what your team has access to in Citera, and then trying to mirror it in AMT Direct.
Yeah, that's difficult because it's not, the two systems are different. So data is put in different areas, which, it's not going to be a simple one-to-one.
Right.
So it's like you guys would essentially, thinking this through, is to say, okay, take the information out of Citera, look at all of your users now, what they do and do not have access to, and then come together as a group and say, okay, these are the different types of roles we have in Citera. This is what they currently have access to. What do we like and dislike about it? And then knowing how the system works, how do we want them, what type of structure do we want to put around the type of access that they're going to have in AMT Direct? Because again, it's not going to be the same, but this would be the perfect time to make sure that you're giving everybody access to everything they need, and not access because in Citera it was a part of, having to give them access to that in order for them to do their job, when they really may not need all of that access in AMT Direct.
Right.
Right, I agree. So we should be focusing on functionality needed and not just mimicking what was before.
Right. So I would suggest that for your agenda tomorrow, you put that on there. And it needs, just like the SOX compliance needs somebody per se, this will need somebody to focus on it within the next couple of days, but definitely within 30 days to kind of develop. Just like we're doing the testing, someone needs to be working on that.
Yeah, I had previously let the supervisor for the help desk know that this is forthcoming, so that he could start thinking about who is he going to dedicate to this particular system. So I'll circle back up with him and figure out.
But I would put it on. Yeah, I would also put it on the agenda so that Len and Blaine see it. Okay.
Okay.
All right. With that regard, I'm okay. And having a full-blown security discussion, I'm in agreement with moving it around. If that's the only subject with respect to workflow that the EU needs to attend, they don't need AP manager.
Right, but it gets turned on for both teams, so they just want the minimum amount of approvals possible.
So on the EU side, they're not caring anymore about, the different entity classes and, who's approving what for what region. They come to because I know that was a big issue before.
They're focused on contract workflow. I don't know directly the answer to your question.
Okay, are they no longer using AP for EU? Is that what it came down to?
AP workflow or AP process?
AP manager.
No, they're still using AP manager. they don't want to get choked up with approvals for every time. They just want to approve the charges associated with the lease that one time and then move forward.
Okay, so that's
Is
where we're gonna.
AP manager for those individuals that are paying through AMT?
Yes. And
EU is
so-
not paying through AMT.
Right,
Correct.
they're just recording their AP.
They're
balance.
just the recording base. So I don't think the AP manager fits for them.
That would be
But-
correct. If they're not gonna have anything really to do with AP manager, and I guess, Sarah, I would just need a little bit more clarification. What do you mean by they're just recording it? Meaning through the contract itself for FASB purposes?
Well, I mean that they don't cut checks and pay their landlords and then process the rent payments.
Okay, so pretty much the only team that's gonna be coming into AP manager is gonna be the US.
Yes. Yeah, we're full blown in it.
But don't they go through AP manager to post their batches? Because they will be posting AP batches.
Okay, so they're gonna be going through and posting as well,
Yes.
but just not cutting a check. So they're posting to post?
They're posting and validating what the landlords take out of their bank accounts. The landlords essentially take the money.
Okay, so
that
like a
is owed to them.
reconciliation.
Yeah, exactly. They're making sure that the numbers match. The
Okay.
landlords took what the lease says they should have taken.
I'm gonna have to come up with a clever way of getting that to work. If they wanna have as minimal, I mean, we can make it work. I know we can make it work. It's just, I gotta think through that for them on their side.
Okay.
To just make sure that it's not gonna become a hindrance to them because of the way that AP workflow does work.
Okay,
Now,
that'd be great.
my question is, there was some discussion on whether or not manual invoices were going to be created in AP Manager. Did anybody ever make a decision about that?
For which side of the pond? On the North America side?
And yeah, in general, they were saying that, oh, manual.
North America will be processing whatever goes through the AS400 today as one-off invoices or charges. Billed.
Putting them through as one-time charges within a lease, or will they be going in and actually creating manual invoices through AP, which is two different processes?
I'm not sure, but it's all rent related, correct?
Yeah, well, here's the thing. If you do it through AP Manager, you don't see a record of that within the lease. So my question is, because I ran into this with another client yesterday, they're kind of in the same situation where they're definitely doing contract workflow, but when it came down to AP workflow and we got, really kind of digging into it and training on it, they're like, this is a very, lengthy approval process. And their issue was, well, I told them, if you're not going to do manual invoices through AP and you're going to put all of your one-offs as one-time charges within a lease, it may be better just to not turn on AP workflow because you're mandating that every single charge is going to go through the lease, therefore being a part of a workflow process. Now, that runs into the issue of, well, how do we control batches and who's doing what for the batches? And, it's a matter of being able to understand, well, we can turn AP manual invoices off so that, everything that is in AP now will be system generated and at some point gone through the workflow process, which shouldn't cause a problem. Hence why I'm asking, did you ever come to a decision on that? Because you may decide that maybe you don't need to turn on AP workflow because you've mandated that everything's going to go through the lease, therefore going through contract workflow.
All right, so as I understand it, you have either or. You got one or the other, correct?
And some people, I have some clients that turn on both AP workflow and contract workflow, but mainly for them, it's because they need an approval process for manual invoices. So for those one-off invoices.
So right now, well, Anna, what did you guys early on discuss, or was there any discussion on this at all? Because the way I see it, the AP workflow is here through Edith and Edith's team and Diana and Heather. The contract, that's through you guys, right? I mean, that's the initial abstraction, the setup, the change, the verification of any terms if the landlord comes through. I'm trying to distinguish that. Would that be an appropriate distinction, separation between the two?
So what we discussed early on was that we would turn both on, and that when it came to like the one-time payments that needed special like year-end adjustments and retroactive reconciliations and stuff, that those would be handled through AP workflow. Well, AP workflow. So like they'd be in AMT, like Heather would enter them and they'd go to, I think, Everett to approve. But then when it came to, you know, a user needing to change what the tax rate was, that would go through contract.
Okay, so you're gonna need both turned on. Okay.
Yes, I think that sounds right.
All right, then. So if that's the case, we just got to come up with a way that's just going to be easy for the EU side since they're doing. All right. I will work on figuring out how we're gonna make that adjustment.
Because I'm blind with respect to what EU is doing. Other than treating it as if it's a purchase order, they know how much they got to pay the landlord the course of the year. They record the debits and the payments. So they're just a recording. And just using it as a tool to report. The disbursement side is Oracle, I think, whatever system they use.
Okay.
That's correct.
So, Alicia, I just have a quick question. So like, if we didn't want to turn on AP workflow, is there a way to make those one-time payments and run them through contract, so there's only the one workflow?
You could potentially do that. And what that would do is that would go through as a one-time charge. And it would be like a one-time charge with like one row of rental activity. You would become, I know you guys are going through an endeavor with your charges right now. So it would require, you know, making sure that you have like some charge types in there to accommodate, like if you had like true up. So you could have like a CAM true up or a CAM reconciliation or, you know, light fixtures, whatever those kind of one-time charges are to kind of account for that. I mean, you could put everything through the contract if need be.
Okay, so if we didn't and we had AP, when we do, say we sign a document, it's retroactive, we short paid the rent a couple months, so we need to now cut a check for $1,000. Does that $1,000 get like charged to like a rent account?
Well, it's going to be how you put it in. So if like you had a true up, right? You sat here and you said, okay, hey, you know, this particular charge, we weren't charged, or we were like $100 short each month, and it ends up being $500. We're at the catch up point now. So now what you would do is you would put a one-time charge in at the charge level for that $500 difference as just a whole payment. So you wouldn't do it month over month over month. You would just put it through as a true up to the whole payment. You could go back into the existing charge, update the charge, and then that $500, you can go ahead and dictate the GL account that should match to anyways.
Okay, so then that extra $500 when we run reports at the end of year will get tied back to rent and not, you know, something else?
It's whatever GL account you want to associate it with. So if you're associating it to rent, then you would associate it to rent. So the charge itself could be like, you know, BRN true up or, you know, true up, whatever you want to call the charge itself. And then the GL account is where you're placing it in that. You're placing it in whatever, you know, account assignment that you're going to dictate it to.
Yeah, it's working like a true AP system. The one-time charge can be used repetitively, correct?
Yes.
All right. So from a one-time charge, you just have just like we do have a similar code that's getting slammed every time. If it got short for, I mean, conceptually, I could see you having one for, you know, well, each type, but we wouldn't want to do that. So long as you can override the GL account code that it goes to, and it's consistent, then It's fine. AP systems do that routinely where you override the GL account code anyway. But the processing of that transaction is an accounting function. That's the same functions that are going on upstairs, as I understand it, between Diana and Heather. So
yeah, I agree with that. I think the one thing that we lose now because it's done in AS400 and not Cytera is that we don't have visibility to those.
Mm-hmm.
So when we need to reconcile, hey, why was rent off? We have to get this like extra file of these were the one-time payments that were not ran through Cytera. And what we find is when they're doing those retroactive reconciliations, instead of doing it account by account, they lump them all together, and it's difficult to tie out that dollar amount to the proper charge type. So I just want to make sure that even if it takes a few extra steps, that it's being done the right way, because, you know, we're going to be reviewing rent a lot harder in the coming months. And, you know, I think that we need to develop what that new process is going to be.
Yeah,
Yep.
and by no means is it an easy task. You know, you are going to have to become a little bit better in how you put that in for the contract piece, because it's going into the lease itself. So you're going to have to develop processes around what that looks like. Now, where you're going to run into issues is those one-off, you know, Anna, if you were going to be the person who's approval or going to be on the workflow itself and approving the workflow, you're going to have to come up with a process that's going to be like, okay, if you guys are putting in these charges, we need, you know, this type of documentation in order for me to approve it. That's where you're going to run into that. So it's not as simple as them just going in and putting it in. It's going to be a matter of, well, before it can get approved. And remember, it is a situation of lag time. So that's another thing that was brought up where, you know, how long is it going to take to get the approval completed if it's a one-time charge? Is it something that needs to be paid today? If it needs to be paid today, can you get the approval process essentially done within the day? Things like that are questions that you're going to have to ask yourself with any workflow, whether it's AP or contract.
Right, but the existing compliance, there is right now the separation between the abstraction, the real estate department and their particular functions, and the accounting here. So the one-offs, the one thing that I think would be helpful to know is if there is a one-time one-off. Let's say it occurred 500 times during the course of 3 months, okay, whatever the case may be, and they're entered into a workflow, and the workflow approval process is in Florida, not in Chicago. Will Anna and her team still be able to see those disbursements? That's the biggest issue, I think, there. Will it be included in disbursement reports? Anything that they have and they run that can't be visible, so that they know when they're reviewing the lease, they can tie it back and say, hey, we made this $500 check disbursement, which was the shortage on the rent. And going forward, we're fine now for lease payments. Or is that not the case?
My thing is, they would be able to see anything that goes through the lease. So the only issues you're going to have is if you're not giving somebody visibility into the lease itself.
Not giving them visibility into the lease. Again, I'll say it again, a shortage on a contractual obligation for, I'm going to pick something, common area maintenance, got shorted 3 months. One-time fix, it gets entered, AP processing is on. Will Anna, who's got the contract type, got the contract approval component, will they see that stuff as being dispersed and as a complete set of payments supporting the lease to reconcile? That's the question I have, because if not, then it's the same that we have today. We'll have AS400 and we'll have AMT, and unfortunately, it's all residing under the hood in AMT. It makes no sense.
Yeah.
Unless there's security code or some secured profile change so that that could be viewed with respect to someone's setup, a particular user.
So,
I mean, we're spending a lot of time on it, but I think the point is, will they see it? Because I'm being confused when you say it has to be in the lease or through the lease. We have to pay it. That's an AP function.
so
When it gets paid, will real estate be able to see that disbursement?
that's the thing, is depending on where you put it. If you do it through a manual charge in AP, that does not link back to the lease. Only thing you're going to see on the lease side is a payment. If you do a view history, you can see all the payments that have been made through AP, but it's not tying back to a manual invoice charge. Furthermore, when you look at the charges, you don't see that charge there.
So if they enter it with a charge type that's used for the normal recurring rental process, they'll see it.
Exactly. If they go to the lease itself and they put that charge in as a one-time charge through the lease, everybody's going to have visibility into it if they're looking at the lease. If you're going to do manual invoices, that visibility is not seen unless you go into AP Manager.
So in that case, a one-time charge code won't work.
Won't work where?
It's a one-time charge for catch-up. Is the one-time charge in within the lease component, or you have to use, for example, CM for common area maintenance? That's the code we have today. If they go in and they use that code for the 3-month one-time payment catch-up, Anna will see it.
Yes, but there's some nuances to that because you can't double up for any one same period of time with the same charge code, which is why I said if you're gonna go through the lease with it, you're gonna have to come up with some other charge code types that would be used in those circumstances.
I think that's easy to do, Anna, to come up with. Since the discussions are being had right now in terms of charge types, right? To come up with something like this, it has to be discussed, especially now since we're putting everything together.
And that may be a situation where you might want to have the AP contract discussion during the lunch hour, so that way the EU can be a part of it too, so you guys can all make that decision on how you want this to work.
But is that going to be helpful for them if they're not utilizing it?
Well, they still got to put one-time charges in. So it's going to be, okay, are they going to be trained to put the one-time charges through the lease, or are they going to be trained to put the one-time charges through manual invoices? So it at least gets accounted for.
Okay. I would venture to say that I like Anna's idea better, swapping it, rather than taking the lunch hour. Anna, do you have any opinion on it?
Well, I mean, I think ultimately we can shorten lunch because we don't need an entire hour, but I think that we may need to have more, and that's why I kind of proposed having 2 separate workflow discussions, more of like internal of what we want to have happen, and then kind of bounce it off of like, will this work? Because I think right now we're not going to be able to like turn it on and see it work in our profile. I'm guessing, Alicia, you'd have to like go into some other profile and show us how it works.
Exactly. Which I can do. It's just going to be a matter of, you know, what are you guys going to prefer? How much, where do we want to make sure we have the time to be able to do that?
Okay. Sarah, I think this warrants more discussion. We're going to take up more time here. I would, Alicia, are you of the opinion we still need to have that workflow discussion overview, the overview of how it works?
I think you guys have an understanding of how it works to some degree. I can give a very brief one, but I think the focus needs to be more on, well, okay, it's essentially a couple of questions. It's Now that you know how it works, if I give you a very brief overview, do you want to have both contract workflow and AP workflow turned on? If you decide not to go with AP workflow and contract workflow, then that means a process change to how you guys put in one-time charges, and then making sure that it's crystal clear on what that is going to look like.
All right. Well, we have to take those questions away and raise them. If you feel EU needs to be a part of that,
Well, I think ultimately they will, but I think since we don't even know what we want right now, we're not ready to talk to them about it because.
Yeah, I think that just needs to be, I think this needs to be an overview / discussion. I mean, we need to have that discussion, and that was I think I was our internal discussion and H was the overview. So I'm inclined to leave it at that late hour. I don't even think we have anything to even present to the UK in terms of what. So my suggestion is that we leave it at the 4 o'clock hour and we knowingly need to talk about it. And if you choose, if it's approved, if you can come in earlier the next day, then it's an opportunity to have that discussion prior to the meeting. So,
So all right, so how do you want me to, so you want to keep the AP and the workflow overview from 4 to, and really we can get through, I think, the overview hopefully within an hour, and we can help participate in some of the discussion with that half an hour, how we were looking at that. Do we want to keep the schedule the same? Because if we're keeping that 4 to 5 there, it just depends on if you wanted to AP 8 o'clock in the morning and then the EU team has another late day and they stay to the 11:45 to get through security for their people as well. How do you want to work that?
No, I think, what did you have, Anna? You had recommended security be bumped to 4 and the AP workflow go in the morning so they could participate. I thought I heard you say that, right?
Contract workflow in the morning.
Yeah.
They want, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, to move contracts at 8 to 10 or 8 to 9:30.
And then bump
AP after, and then security from 4 to 5:30 the day before.
on day 1, right?
Okay. So day 1, we're going to move security from 4 to 5:30. And then you want to do contract, the overview we'll do it from 8 to 9:30, and then we'll follow through with AP manager right after.
Yep. Yeah.
Right? And then are we doing that going into that, knowing that you guys are going to have some sort of discussion beforehand, or is this just we're going to go and do the overview so that way after the overview you guys can at some point that day have a discussion?
I think both. I think it's starting to pop its head and needs some attention. So I think between Oscar, myself, some others, I don't know. I don't see Blaine or Len looking at the videos, but for the most part, we need to be prepped with an understanding and have a general discussion, hopefully after.
Okay.
We'll see.
All right. So
I don't know what people's agenda will be.
Robert, would it make sense? Sorry, Robert, would it make sense for like you and I to get on to review one together, to like bounce ideas off, and then maybe prior to, the meeting in 3 weeks, if we have any follow-up questions for Alicia, we can shoot them to her?
Yep.
So that we're as knowledgeable as we can on the topic when we get there?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Yep.
Alrighty, so I will make those changes. Do you guys have any other questions?
Yeah, let me go through. Blaine's first question is, what's the purpose of training? It's more than just report writing or report building. It's security,
I mean, so initially the training is for report building, but because originally the report building was going to be like 8 hours, it was like, okay, let's make this a 2-day and put other topics in that need to be discussed. So that's how I'd answer that question.
Okay. The descriptions for all of these were provided by AMT based upon the training material, so that's not a problem on that question. Alicia, how many hours of training do you see we have?
Let's see, if we're looking at this, I think we actually came in under the quote by like an hour.
Right, and he's questioning that.
I mean, we could take that out. So here's the thing. You can leave it at the 16 hours. We could do the 15 hours as intended with the
Actually, it's more, well, yeah, well, yeah, I guess when you add in the breaks and everything and the lunch.
And so my thing is, I can certainly get you guys another quote for training to accommodate for the 15 and a half as opposed to the 16 and a half. But what you could do is what I have some other clients do is whatever time that we don't use, that's time that they have after the fact. So if there's an hour that's not being used, you could use that interchangeably sometime after. So if like somebody needs some additional help somewhere, you can pull from that extra time that you have.
So how many hours are in day one, for example?
So we're starting at
9 office hours.
Yeah.
9.5.
9.5, I believe.
Yeah, 8 to 5:30 is 9.5.
Minus 1 hour lunch, it's 8.5.
Well, it's 8.5 for you, but if we're on site, you guys do get charged for the hour worth of training on the lunch break time.
Sorry, guys, I have to run. I'll talk to you all tomorrow. Thank you.
Bye, Sarah. So on-site time, which includes downtime. Sorry, lunch. Okay.
That means, Alicia, I don't expect you to be checking your email. You're mine.
That's right. That's right.
I don't do that with other clients, except for you, actually. Yesterday, I did check my email.
Yes, you did. No, I appreciate it. Yeah, you were out there, you checked.
But I only did that because I forgot to put my out of office on and I couldn't get on my laptop.
So the one thing, like, you know, we're at 15 or 4 to 15 and a half. The thing is, like, Alicia, and I think you can attest to this, but maybe you don't want to because it's maybe a rude statement by me. We have gone over on every single training. So my opinion is that there's going to be some topic here that isn't going to be done in this time frame unless we've already padded in these times, because we have never had a training that didn't have follow-up questions that needed to be answered, or didn't have takeaways that we needed to check and come back, or didn't like get derailed because of tangents that come up. So to me, I don't see there's a sense in nickel and diming that we're not actually reviewing for 16 hours because
I wasn't going to make the statement, so thank you for making it. The thing is that we tend to on our trainings kind of historically. I put the 16 hours in there with that mindset. So hopefully that would give us enough wiggle room. Just because it has happened before. I think I've gotten through maybe one training with you guys where we finished the training from beginning to end. And I think it may have been because it was something really specific.
So there may be extra time baked in that if we have efficient discussions, or, you know, we keep the group on task, that we have some extra time in the back that either we talk about other things or end up getting transferred to trainings that we have just banked.
Yeah, like yesterday I was on site and we had kind of gone off. It actually happened to be because of workflow. We went overtime. And so I had baked in a little bit of room for them because, again, they're kind of in a similar situation. We don't finish the majority of the trainings because they have a lot of internal dialogue because they have to change processes.
Right.
So, you know, we baked that time in where we were able to go a little bit over. I was able to cut down on a break or two. You know, a lot of the times for lunchtime, even though we're baking that in for an hour, 9 times out of 10, it's individual people coming up and asking questions like, hey, I'm trying to do X, Y, and Z, and this isn't working. And, you know, we're kind of baking that time in to make sure we can account for it.
I think his question was, hey, there's 12 and a half hours of training, and the 16 and a half hours of billing. Go get the other 2.5 hours. And what was the response you gave me is that the hour for lunch, the time for lunch, and the 4 breaks brings it to 15 hours, and there's an 1 hour buffer. Yep. Right? You got two 1 hour lunches. That's the issue, which you may not like the response, but that's in the contract, or that's how you do things?
That's how we do it for all of our clients. So yesterday when I was on site, we took an hour-long break. I answered questions in between since they ordered in for everybody there. I answered questions in between, but because again, I'm already there, it's baked into the time.
Okay. All right.
Well, any consultant, they show up at your door, you're paying for them, whether or not they do anything or not.
Mm. Well, when I'm off for lunch, I don't bill for lunch. When I traveled, I didn't bill for lunch, but you know.
And we could take, and I am more than willing, if that's what the need is, if you'd like, we could definitely take it out, but then that's under the understanding that we would more than likely leave for lunch. Like,
yeah, you're clocking out. Yeah, no, I hear you. No, I hear you. I hear you. I'll word it that the opportunity for the eating in is ample time for questions, additional training, additional whatever, baked into the additional breaks and lunchtime. So
and the breaks and honestly, the breaks are just for the simple fact that it's a lot of material that we're covering, and after a certain point of time, you're gonna glaze over. So it's either we take the break, or then you don't retain anything after about an hour and a half to 2 hours, roughly.
Here's the next question that's probably more important. I'm gonna skip ahead to this question number 6. 842. 842 is not covered in anywhere. 842 would be important for Brian and Andreas. Is that separate training? Is there no training for that?
There is. That's going to all be handled closer to your actual 842 go live with your consultant. Now, who's your consultant?
I like to think it's Michelle. I don't know.
I can say that it's,
I don't see the love anymore. You know, there was a lot of love in the beginning, but you know, it's.
Now, there is some time on there if what you'd like is to facilitate a 2-hour session. That wouldn't probably be a part of the quote. I'm pretty sure there's a whole separate bucket of training time that goes associated solely to the 842 project. I did that yesterday for a client, but that was a part of, they took the hours from what I was already quoted to come on site for and to facilitate it on the FASB side. So they kind of basically double dipped on the hours. It was a total of 4 hours. I took 2 from the quote that I had, and then the FASB consultant took 2 hours out of the time that he spent with the FASB hours that were allotted.
How many hours is the FASB training?
It's roughly about an hour and a half to 2 hours.
All right, I can't see us doing that now when we're not even there yet, but I don't know what everyone has in their mind in terms of FAS 42, 842, so I'll just feed them the information. All right, let me see what else I got. Anna, I need a list of people from EU who are going to be participating. Can you remind Sarah?
Yes.
Thank you. He has, Anna, a question with respect to.
Sarah's back on the line.
Hey, Sarah, how are you?
I'm fine. I just dialed back in.
Okay. If just as a reminder, can I get those names of individuals in EU that would be a part of the training?
Yes, I put a post-it on my desktop already.
All right, outstanding. Now, he asks for portfolio insight. It's restricted, or the names are only individuals that are real estate? Any reason why?
Well, the topics that are under portfolio insight seem to only be for real estate. So like setting up a train, and maybe I should ask Alicia. Alicia, a training lease, is that like a template?
That's like us taking you through, and we'll build it. We'll build an actual lease in the system from beginning to end. And that's more what I was going to talk to you about for that, is when we go through and we build out what we call a training lease. That's basically, we're in your database. They're your labels, they're your drop downs. Is a chance for us to build it with you. But then what's going to happen is, remember when we kind of did that, that training, Anna, for your abstraction team, where it was, okay, you're saying specifics to put in these places. That's what that's going to accommodate, where you're like, okay, non-financial clauses, here's how you put them in. And then the extra added is, okay, what is your process for putting this in? How do you want this to look? You know, making sure everybody is on the same page with how the information should get into the system.
Okay, so I think I thought that was more of like a template, like creating templates, which maybe we can or can't do.
You can do. I have some clients that have, like, they keep the training leases in their databases, and they can go ahead at any point in time and kind of do like a lease transfer, where it then transfers all that information in. I have a couple of clients that do that. Some clients do it as reference, and then they make quick links to it when they get new employees, so that the employee can reference that particular lease and how they expect the leases to be put in. You could do that too. I mean, whatever we come up in the system, it's going to be training unless you decide to delete it.
Well, I mean, I think that like, for the most part, like the attendees that I have, they're, because we do weekly trainings here on what we put, I mean, it's been a little bit since we had another one, but we plan on doing abstraction training prior to coming. So I think that like, that abstraction is probably not super important to do, but as far as like setting up like maybe a template, that might be helpful so that we could use that in the future.
Yeah, it's up to you. I mean, we can go through, and as we're creating it, you tell me what you'd like there, and then essentially what that becomes is we'll label it template. And then what we can also do is I'll show you guys how to do a lease transfer, so you could take the templated information and almost kind of transfer it into your lease as needed. And then what happens is you have the ability, after you do that lease transfer, to then just go in and take out anything that's not needed.
So it's a shell. You just for these 2 hours, they're working on how to build a shell.
Yeah, and because we don't normally do that, that's what it would be at this point. We're just making sure, since it was on the agenda, is essentially going through and building it out completely from beginning to end.
So yeah, I took it from one of your samples. So I think one thing, like going over widgets again, is definitely going to be helpful. And maybe going through the updating, because now that we have our own data in the widgets, like going through our templates and stuff like that and seeing like, okay, this is how you would mass update the, you know, store locator widget or whatever widget we're talking about. So I think that would be
I was going to say, what we could potentially do is, if you have something like an amendment or a change you need to make, I can give you like the specifics of, you know, hey, have this information ready. And then what we can do is, as opposed to creating a brand new lease from scratch, we could then alternatively review a lease and then go through and make the amendments. Because I don't think date manager is something everybody's gotten anyways. And then you guys can discuss, okay, well, what does that mean and how do you make the changes? I know you had some interesting ways that you wanted, like non-financial clauses, and when you make amendments and you delete out certain charges, how you wanted some of those things to be identified as.
Okay. So I guess Robert, to answer Blaine or Blaine's question, I guess this would be, you know, an opportunity for the real estate team to review, you know, abstraction and certain items that they're going to own the data for.
Okay.
But if other people want to attend, that's fine. It's just, you know, I anticipated that wasn't going to be something that other people would want to be sitting in on.
Yeah, I think it might be helpful just from an understanding standpoint, but yeah. I'll respond to the question and see who comes back. I'll ask Oscar if he has any thoughts too, but it's just a matter of responding to that. So let me see what else I got. That's fine, I can answer that. 8:42, I got the attendees. I'm good, I think I'm fine. Now, what I'd like to do is, Alicia, I think when you make your changes, could you be very particular about the time on the left side of the column? So that, for example, you have 8 to 12 for report builder. You know, take it from 8 to 10, and then add in a date below where we basically resume with report builder 2. Just to fill in the time gap if there's something missing.
Okay.
With respect to RB1, RB2, I know this is going to sound silly, but since he's already seen the topics, can you populate the headings like you did before, like we sent you? We did a cut and paste from, you know, stuff that you sent us
You just
before.
basically want what it's going to contain.
Yep, I need that in there just so that he has it, he's seen it, to avoid any follow-up questions he may ask. Well, what's RB1? And he saw it blown out. I know it may go to 3-4 pages on the agenda, but that's fine.
Okay.
Okay. And then let's say day 1 rolls to page 1, page 2. If day 2, make day 2 begin on page 3, whatever necessary, so it's clearly broken out, so that we could pass this to him so he could see it. Okay.
All righty. Any other questions about the agenda, what I sent over, the quote?
No, I haven't heard anything on the quote. I saw the number. Sarah, were there any issues on the quote on your side other than what was raised yesterday on the call?
Nothing from my side. It's something Blaine needs to review.
And
Okay.
the only reason why I'm asking is because I'm currently holding those 2 days. So just FYI, those are blocked on my calendar, which means nobody else can block them. I mean, if we're definitely sure about the dates, then that's great. But if not, then I would probably need to unhold them on my calendar.
All right, the 6,600 bill that's just time on site. That's no travel or windshield time, right?
Nope. So we're in the process of eventually revamping our contracts to include additional verbiage on that. But as it currently stands, we don't charge you for travel time. You have to cover the cost, but we're not charging you what we would on the hourly rate for the travel time to and from.
All right, so it's just the actual billing, actual costs associated with your expense report for hotel and car rental and airfare.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, eventually it'll change. So if you end up next year needing somebody to come on site, it might have like different verbiage, and it might be at a point at that point where, they quote for travel time. But as it stands, I did that quote just for training time with the understanding that Claire's would cover all associated travel costs, meaning, like you said, flights, hotels, food, and things like that. But you're not getting charged like, oh, how long is the flight, the, entry
To
time.
and from, right. Driving to and from, yeah. Yeah, I got it. Some firms do that at a different rate.
And So is it that, I mean, Robert, you made a comment about Alicia not, or Christy not coming. Is she not coming to this?
I was teasing because she wasn't on the call.
I tried,
Oh,
to
okay.
but there's so many other people monopolizing her her calendar right now. I'm like, if my calendar is hard to get on, hers is almost impossible.
Yeah, no, I've not heard.
You both would be coming, right?
If you sign on that quote, yep, we will both be there. And basically what Christy will serve as is she's going to be the person who's going to be, when we're going through like report building, for instance, when somebody has a question, she's going to be able to be the one to work with them and make sure the room stays on task in terms of following along. Because when you have like bigger crowds of people, it sometimes gets hard to get everybody on the same page. And then when we have to stop, that's what makes us run over even further, is when we're waiting for, certain people to catch up. And, with only me being there, I'm going to be the one that's like, okay, well, everybody has to wait at this point. And then what Christy is also going to come in is if there are any kind of discussions from a consulting perspective, she's going to really be the one to kind of tie some of that stuff in for you, especially because she's been working so closely in your database.
But what you forgot to put on in here is the cocktails. That should really be on the schedule.
Somewhere in there. Just make sure it happens there.
I mean, icing's got flasks. I could bring some of those.
There you go.
But yeah, so as long as you guys sign off on the quote, I've already made Christy block off her calendar for that time. So the moment you guys sign it off, it'll be official and we will book travel based on you guys signing off on the quote.
Okay. When can you turn this around for us?
I will get you a new agenda either late tonight or I will get it to you before 10 a.m. tomorrow morning.
Outstanding. I don't have any other issues or questions at this point. Sarah, can you, other than the security, points in discussion, anything you can think of at this point? Anna?
No, not that I can think of.
And Sarah, I did get your email on the EU needing something now. Just an FYI, I was talking to the team, and since nobody decided to give me any type of, kind of direction on that, we don't really have any training time left, but what I'll do is we'll do a 45-minute with them and do it similar to what we did with Anna, where it's just kind of really the basics of what they're going to need to be able to run a report.
Okay, that would be great. Thank you.
So I'll get that scheduled for Thursday. That's the only thing I have time on my calendar right now.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and that would be, if this is approved, you guys, everyone will be flying in Wednesday, so.
Yep, we'll fly in Wednesday and then we'll fly out Friday.
Okay. Sounds like a good plan. Let me just address some questions and get that agenda in front of everyone again, and we can go from there. Okay, guys?
Perfect. All right,
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Alicia.
All righty,
Thanks.
bye.